Welcome back to the video series called The Day of the Lord. Today we're going to be studying Chapter 4, which is called Cliff Notes. Today we're going to be introduced to two topics, the Book of Life and the other books. Now this is a large area to cover, and I hope I can do it justice in this half hour or so that we'll be studying together. But you may want to go back and look at this a second time or even a third to really get the full impact of it. So let's go ahead and see what our study looks like today. The Book of Life sealed with 7 seals. In Psalms we read this text, "When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." Let's see what this means. I don't know if any of you have ever used Cliff Notes. Cliff Notes was the original study guide. I used this when I went to college years ago, and it was written by real teachers and professors to give you the big picture and help you score better in your tests. So if you didn't have a chance to read the book that was assigned to you, you could get the Cliff Notes on it, and it gives you a pretty good overview of what went on in the storyline, etc. Well, unfortunately, there is no Cliff Notes study guide for the Book of Life. So today I'm going to share with you what I call Art's study guide. Instead of Cliff's study guide, it's going to be Art's study guide on the Book of Life. So let's get started here. So what are we going to look at? We're going to look at when the Book of Life was written. We're going to look at its 7 seals a little bit. And we're going to look at some of the contents of the Book of Life. So sometime in eternity past, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost, before they created anything, the Book of Life was written. And I believe it was written by the Father, and it was sealed with 7 seals. So this was written before man was even created. So it's really not well understood, nor is it studied by many of Bible students today. Typically, people will focus on the seals of the Book of Life and what occurs when each seal is open, but they don't study the Book of Life very much. And I think that what's written in the Book of Life will ultimately be of eternal importance to all of us. So I feel the Book of Life was written by God the Father, and I'll show you a few Bible texts on that here in a moment. And God the Father had possession of the book until Jesus was found worthy. There was a great courtroom scene in heaven where Jesus was found worthy to take possession of the Book of Life and to open its seals. So let's look at those texts. Let's see when and how this occurred. Then I saw in the right hand of him, that is God the Father, who sat on the throne, a scroll, and that scroll was the Book of Life, with writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a mighty angel proclaim in a loud voice, "Who is worthy to break the seals and to open the scroll?" That was the question. Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scrolls? But the text goes on, it says, "But no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth could open the scroll or even look inside of it. So no one initially was seen worthy to open the scroll. And then this is John speaking, and I wept and wept, because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll and look inside. So why would John have wept and wept? He wept and wept. When he saw that no one was able to open that scroll, he just cried. Well, he must have known something about it. He must have known the importance of it. Then one of the elders said to John, says, "Do not weep, for the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, which is Jesus, has triumphed at the cross. He, that is Jesus, is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals." So Jesus, went and took the scroll, that's the book of life, from the right hand of him, that's God the Father, who sat on the throne. So Jesus was found worthy to open the book of life, and he took it from God the Father. So this is where I think that God the Father, he had possession of it all along. He wrote it, and he had possession of it. And when Jesus was found worthy, he was given that scroll. And that happened in heaven, in what I call a heavenly courtroom scene. And this is another text. This is from Daniel 7, verses 9 and 14. And it says, "As I looked, thrones were set up in place, and the Ancient of Days," that's God the Father, "took his seat. And the court was seated, or the courtroom was seated, and the books were open." Now you notice it says books. This is not the book of life. These are another set of books, and we're going to be talking about that in a moment. So the courtroom was seated, and the books were open, and I looked, and there before me was one like the Son of Man, that was Jesus, coming with the clouds of heaven. He, that is Jesus, approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. And something additionally happened at this meeting in heaven. I will cover it in a future video, but Jesus was given something besides the book of life at this meeting, at this courtroom scene. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. Now, sovereign power is the highest power you can have. There's nothing higher than that. So up to this point, Jesus evidently did not have sovereign power. But at this courtroom scene, he was given sovereign power along with the book of life. So I believe that these two Bible texts, both in Revelation 5 and in Daniel 7, point to the same great courtroom scene in heaven where Jesus is found worthy by the Father, and he was given possession of the book of life, and he was also given sovereign power. So this was a very, very important courtroom scene in heaven. So to recap, the book of life was written by God the Father in eternity past, and during the heavenly courtroom scene, Jesus was found worthy to receive the book, and this was after his resurrection. So let's look at some more Bible texts and see what else we can find out. This is Revelation 5, verse 3. Now, we're talking about the book of life here, but in this text, it's called the Lamb's book of life. So after Jesus received the book of life, this shows that the possessive nature of it, it's his now, it's the Lamb's book of life. In this book of life, there was something interesting about what was inside of it. It says there were names written in the Lamb's book of life. So names are written in the book of life. And here's another text from Revelation chapter 17, verse 8. And you can see here, by the way, I've put a little brackets here with, I've added some words just so it's easier to read. And I hope you don't mind, but you'll see it's always in brackets, these little square brackets when I add some words. So it says, the unrighteous inhabitants of the earth whose names have not been written in the book of life. So we know these are the unrighteous people. These are the people that are lost. So the unrighteous inhabitants of the earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from before the creation of the world will be astonished when they see the beast. Well, I'm not going to go into with you right now this prophecy. We will be covering that later on in this video series. But I just want to point out a few things here to you from this one Bible text. So first off, when was the book of life written and sealed? At what time? Well, it was written before God created the world. It says so right here. It says, whose names have not been written in the book of life from before the creation of the world. So this book was written before the world was created. It says so right in this text. So who wrote the book? Who is the author of the book? Well, it has to be God. Man was not created yet. So the only one that could have written it is God or God the Father. So what did God write in the book? He put in the book the names of the righteous, the saved. Oftentimes in the Bible, you'll find that things are written in the negative cast. So here it says that the names of the inhabitants of the earth whose names have not been written in the book of life. So if their names are not written there, then the ones that are saved, the righteous, their names must have been written in the book of life. Hope you followed me on that. So, is your name written in the book at the time you were accepted Jesus or were baptized? Now, I'm assuming that persons listening to this video here, that you have accepted Jesus in your life and you've invited him into your life, and you were either baptized or you were somehow brought into the church. So, when you were brought into the church and baptized, is that when your name was written in the book of life? I don't think so. I say no. And I say, see number 1 above. Well, what's number 1 above? When was the book of life written and sealed? Well, it was before God created the world. So before he even created us, he has our name written in the book of life. We don't know that. We don't know whose name is in there because why? Because the book is sealed. It's sealed with 7 seals. And nowhere in the Bible does it indicate that God has ever opened up the book of life to add or take anyone's name out of it, because it was written and sealed before God created anyone on earth. The only time it's going to be opened is when the 7th seal of the book is opened. So whose names are in the book of life? Well, the righteous, who will be saved. The unrighteous were blotted out by God. Well, how do we know that? Well, if we look at Psalms 69, verse 28, it says, may they, which if you read it, it means the unrighteous, be blotted out of the book of life and not be listed with the righteous. So God originally, when he wrote the book of life, everyone's name was put in there. And through God's ability to look down through the centuries, he knew who would not accept his offer for eternal life, and he blotted out their name. Let's look at some other texts. Revelation 13, verse 8. Here it says, all the inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life. the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. So this is talking about the inhabitants of the earth who will worship the beast. These are the people that are lost. Their names have not been written in the book of life. Okay, Revelation 20 says the lake of fire is the second death, all whose names were not found written in the book of life were thrown into the lake of fire. And finally, Revelation 21 says nothing impure will ever enter it, nor will anyone who does what is shameful or deceitful, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. So these first two are the people that are not, their names aren't in there and they're lost. And this third one refers to those whose name is in the book of life and they're saved. Let's look at Exodus and see what Moses had to say. So Moses went back to the Lord and said, "Oh, what a great sin these people have committed." That's when they made the golden calf. They have made themselves gods of gold. And here's Moses was pleading with God. He says, "But now please forgive their sin, but if not, then blot me out also, my name, from the book of life you have written." So back in Exodus, Moses knew about the book of life. It was taught back then. And he didn't really want to be blotted out, but he was pleading with God, "Please, if you cannot forgive their sin, then blot me out also." But he's really saying, "Please forgive their sin," is really what he was hoping for. So, did you notice something? There are different descriptions to the book of life. Sometimes it says it's the book with names. Sometimes it's called the book of life with names from the creation of the world. Sometimes it's called the Lamb's book of life. And then sometimes it's called a scroll sealed with 7 seals. A scroll is just a book. That's an old-fashioned term for a book in the Bible times. Well, my study of this topic, you have to pause a second and you have to think, obviously. You have to make some deductions sometimes. And then based on all that, you have to render a conclusion. So here's my conclusion studying this topic, because I know other people have different opinions on this. But my conclusion is this, that all 4 descriptions refer to the same thing, the book of life with everyone's name written in it before the creation of anything. That's what the book of life is. And the unrighteous, the people that are lost, their names were blotted out by God. So my conclusion is all these references here, all are referring to the same thing, the book of life. All right, let's get back to our story here now. So, I believe that the book of life was written in eternity past. And then what happened? Well, by and by, God decided to create earth and all the earthlings, all the animals and plants, etc. on earth. And God used a template, I believe. And this is an interesting template. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sabbath. He used a 7-day template. On each day, he did something different. And he ended up creating earth and Adam and Eve. Now, I hope you'll forgive me, but this is how I've illustrated Adam and Eve here. I don't know if he had red hair or not. Maybe he did. It's obviously not in the Bible. And I don't think they had fig leaves and stuff at this point in time. But I believe that God used the template here, and you'll see how this comes into my story here as we go along. Used a 7-day template when he created Adam and Eve. Well, we all know what happened after a while with Adam and Eve, don't we? Adam and Eve sinned. Eden was lost. They ate the proverbial apple. Well, it really doesn't say it's an apple in the Bible. It says it's a fruit. They ate that fruit that God told them not to eat. And Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden. But we've got a problem here, don't we? What was God going to do? He had created Adam and Eve, but they had sinned. So, what were they going to do? God had told Adam and Eve this. This is from Genesis 2, verse 17. It says, "But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die." So I believe the Bible means what it says. It says that in the very day that Adam and Eve were to eat that apple, that fruit, that they're going to die. This is what God had told Adam and Eve. Don't eat of that tree. But this was not a surprise for God. He already had a plan to handle sin. And this plan was written in the book of life. That's why he wrote the book of life. It was his way of handling sin when and if it should pop up. So you may be wondering, how can an all-knowing, or all-powerful God have a sin problem? I thought he created everyone sinless. Well, this all started with old Lucifer. Lucifer was the brightest and the highest of God's created beings. And Lucifer exercised his God-given right to rebel against his maker. Some people don't realize this, but God has created everyone with the ability to rebel against God the Father if they chose to. And Lucifer did. Lucifer and the heavenly angels, and later on Adam and Eve, they were all created with a pure heart and a propensity for righteousness. Propensity means a leaning towards. If you were going to go left or right, you're always going to lean towards the righteous way of things. So there was no taint of selfishness or rebellion in them. But at some point in time, we don't know the details because it doesn't say in the Bible, Lucifer chose of his own free will to rebel against Christ's authority. So Lucifer at some point in time chose to rebel against God the Father, against Christ. And this basically is the free will that God has given us. He has given us the ability, if you will, to rebel against him. But Lucifer's sin was so subtle, he ended up taking a third of the angels with him to sin with him. But his sin was so subtle that God put in place a plan that would clearly, and I say once and for all time, for eternity, once and for all time, God put together a plan that would show the consequences of sin to all his created beings. So this is the plan that God is executing to. He is letting sin run out its course. So God has predetermined that sin must last long enough to clearly demonstrate the results of sin. He's going to let them hang with their own rope, if you will. That's a saying that some people may say. But he's going to let sin run its course long enough so that you'll clearly see the results of sin. So in order to expose the lies of Lucifer and the ignorance which sin imposes on billions of human beings, God did something. He wrote a book. Using technology exceeding anything known to man, God the Father wrote a complete history of sin before Jesus created the angels or human beings. So God is laying down in this book exactly what everyone is going to do throughout their whole life. This book or scroll is called the Book of Life, for it contains the complete story of life. So the Father wrote down the complete story of life so that he could show the universe what he knew before life was given to any creature. He then sealed the Book of Life with 7 great seals so that the contents of the book would not be disclosed until the very end of sin's drama. That's at the great white throne judgment. So this thing is sealed. It's sealed better than, the old banks. You've seen them on movies where the bank has a time delay lock on it. It can't be opened until 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, this Book of Life cannot be opened until all the seals are unlocked. And the 7th seal will not be unlocked until the great white throne judgment here. I'll show you that here in a moment. So this Book of Life, even though it shows everything that's going to happen in your life and mine, no one has seen it except God the Father. So God the Father wrote the Book of Life. In this book, has the entire history of sin. God wrote everyone's name in the book. And with God's foreknowledge of who would not accept the gift of eternal life, God blotted out their names from the Book of Life. And then God sealed the book with 7 seals. And the contents are kept secret until the 7th seal is opened. So what happened when Adam and Eve sinned? Well, on the very day that Adam and Eve sinned, God immediately put into effect his plan to save mankind. Immediately it went into effect. And Jesus stepped into the gap between God the Father and man, and he volunteered to pay the penalty for our sin. So right from the very beginning, right from when in eternity past, when the Book of Life was written, Jesus had volunteered, in case man should sin, he will step in the gap. So with that background, let's return to our main story. So Adam and Eve sinned, Eden was lost. They were cast out of Eden, Garden of Eden, and God's plan kicked into being. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sabbath. So God again here is going to use his template, his 7-day template, his creation week template, except it's going to be a little different this time. It's going to be a 7,000-year template. It's going to be a week of millenniums. Each day of the week will be 1,000 years, for a total of 7,000 when we get to the end. A week of millenniums. 6,000 years to let sin run its course, and then 1,000-year Sabbath in heaven. So where are we on this calendar? Well, we don't know how old Adam and Eve were when they sinned. That's one issue. But from whenever they sinned, we are about today, we're way over here, We're about 6,000 years into this. So we have about finished 6 days. So where do I get this 7,000 year template from? Well, there's some hints in the Bible. If you look in Revelation 20, it says, I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge. That will be the righteous, the saved. That's what we're going to be doing in heaven. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. That's this 1,000 years right here, this Sabbath. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are those who have part in the first resurrection. They will be priests of God and of Christ, and will reign with him for 1,000 years, Revelation. So I believe this gives us a hint, this 1,000-year period here. And the Bible does not really talk about anything more than 6,000 years of civilization. So where are we? Like I said, we're right here within years, I think. I don't know how many years. I'm not able. God has not revealed that to me. But we're very, very close to reaching that 6,000 years of sin. And so now we're getting close to the time of the end. And these 7 seals over here on this book of life are going to be opened. 6 of them will be opened before the millennium, and 1 of them, the 7th seal, will be opened at the end of the millennium. So seals 1 to 6 will be opened at this very end of this last day here, and then the 7th will be at the 1,000 years. So as each seal is opened, a different aspect of Jesus' character is going to be revealed. So we're going to have 7 progressive revelations of Jesus. That's what the 7 seals are about. Seal number 1 will be the salvation of Jesus, his victory bow. Victory bow. Number 2 seal, the teaching of Jesus. That will be the Bible and the sword. The 3rd seal, the judgment of Jesus. These are the balance scales. Number 4, the authority of Jesus. That's what we're coming up to, you'll see. That's the Great Tribulation. The faith of Jesus. Martyrdom for Jesus. Number 6, the glory of Jesus. And that will be his second coming of Jesus. And finally, number 7, the deity of Jesus. Jesus will finally be fully revealed. And we will be covering these 7 seals during our study. Now I believe, and I'll show you this, the first 3 seals have already been opened in the past. We're right here, we're between 3 and 4. The authority of Jesus is what I call step 2 in my 10 steps on this video series here. And we'll be getting into that here in a few weeks. So we're just about ready to get into opening of the 4th seal. And like I've said before, all 7 seals will be covered in this video series. Well, we've talked about the Book of Life, but you know there's another books. It's called Books, the Other Books. So we're going to be talking about the other books now for a little bit. Daniel 7, verse 10, I've read this to you already. It says the court was seated and the books were open. And in Revelation 20, it says, Then I saw a great white throne, and him who was seated on it, that's God the Father, and I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne. This is the great white throne judgment. And the books were opened, another book was opened, which is the Book of Life. So this clearly shows that there are books and there is the Book of Life. So there's two sets here, if you will. And it says the dead were judged. This is the second resurrection. The dead will be raised. Everyone that is lost will have been killed by the sword in Jesus' mouth when he comes at the second coming. So that though all those dead people throughout the centuries will be raised. So the dead were judged according to what they had done as recorded in the books. So we have the books and we have the Book of Life. The Book of Life God wrote before he created us. And the books are a faithful record of our deeds. And we are judged by our deeds. These are the people that are lost. We're judged by our deeds and not by the Book of Life. And during the great white throne judgment, the Book of Life will be opened when the seventh seal is opened. And at that time, we'll find out that the Book of Life and the books that recorded our life, minute by minute, second by second, has all of our thoughts and our intentions in there. We will find out that these two books are identical. The books and the Book of Life. So God knew all along what we were going to do, but in spite of knowing that we would reject him, he still and gave us every opportunity to accept his salvation. So I hope this overview of the Book of Life and the other books was informative and useful and will encourage you to study your Bible further. Here are all the Bible texts that we've used in this Bible study. You could pause this video right now if you wanted to write them down. I think I've got them all here. Again, I want to thank you for viewing this video, and God bless you. And I hope that these video series are a blessing for you. Thank you again.